But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars and he was still trying to learn how to get better.
Oh, I feel like it was like that for a lot of us. It's easier for me than it was for Tom because I wasn't playing a character that had already existed in the previous film.
Hey, it's Eileen here. Rachel Zegler takes box office. This girl shot to Hollywood fame like a rocket. She exploded into the spotlight so fast, grabbing roles that aspiring stars could only dream of. But just as quickly, she found herself at the center of one of the most heated debates in the industry. Some are calling her box office poison, while others are defending her, saying she's misunderstood and unfairly criticized. And now, rumors are swirling that Disney might be cutting ties with her, possibly as early as Christmas Day. The speculation is intense, and the question is, how did a rising star turn into one of Hollywood's most controversial figures? Why are insiders quietly suggesting her time could be running out? Let's get into the juicy details of what's really going down behind the scenes. Now, Rachel's journey didn't start with any scandal. Her performance in West Side Story had critics raving, showcasing her incredible voice and undeniable on-screen charm. Hollywood was quick to crown her as the next big thing, but even in those early days, some fans couldn't help but feel her social media posts came off as a little smug. Critics who once praised her also started noticing her tendency to dismiss or talk down to certain fan perspectives. These early red flags went mostly unnoticed by casual viewers, but trust me, some people were paying attention. Behind the glitz and glamour of red carpets and standing ovations, the seeds of controversy were already taking root in her interviews.
I did. It was so fun. Oh my god, as a huge Disney fan, it was so exciting to finally get to go to D23. Yeah. I live on the East Coast, so I was never able to go, and also tickets sell out like in a flash. So it was so exciting to go, and my mom was super jealous because my mom is the reason I'm a Disney fan.
She was like, Jacqueline, if they play Getaway Car or Maroon, she's on crisis watch. Not only did she play Getaway Car, she also played Maroon. I was having a mental breakdown in the audience at MetLife Stadium.
It all started with some minor remarks about co-stars and her outspoken social media rants, sparking quiet debates among fans. But at that time, the attention wasn't enough to stop her momentum. That was about to change in a big way. Those small ripples, they were about to turn into massive waves that would shake Disney's faith in Rachel and threaten to spoil one of its most beloved fairy tales. Then came the bombshell announcement. Rachel was going to star in Disney's live-action Snow White remake. Talk about a career milestone, right? She was going to be the face of a classic character loved by generations of fans. But what should have been a triumph turned into a nightmare. From the moment that first trailer dropped, it was a disaster. The dislikes on YouTube started rolling in tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And before long, the 1 million mark had been smashed across multiple uploads. Public sentiment was turning, and fast. But it wasn't just the trailer's look or the changes to the script. It was Rachel's own interviews that got people talking, and not in a good way. Some fans were furious, accusing her of disrespecting the original 1937 animated Snow White, with dismissive comments about its storyline and outdated themes. Others slammed her for pushing a brand of modern feminism that critics said the audience didn't even ask for. Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube lit up with outrage, and the rumors started flying. Was it possible that the very company that had chosen Rachel to bring Snow White back to life was now regretting that decision?
And my advice to them was to not hear the noise as much, to continue doing the job that we've entrusted them to do, right? Which is to tell the truth, to state the facts, to present the news in an accurate and a fair and in a timely basis. Anything that has to do with technology creating opportunity for us, I find very enjoyable. The creative process at its highest level is at times frustrating, but often, fortunately for us, really enjoyable. The board was making a decision to make a change at the CEO level at Disney, and that they might ask me to step back.
And you say to her?
And I said to Willow, I'm getting this call. It's possible that I could get asked back.
While Snow White was brewing its own storm, Rachel's other projects were raising serious eyebrows with their dismal performances. West Side Story, with its iconic legacy, and Spielberg at the helm, failed to meet financial expectations. Then came Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and it flopped hard at the box office, far worse than anyone had predicted. If these had been one-off disappointments, maybe no one would have been too concerned. But suddenly, Rachel's name was becoming synonymous with box office failure. And nothing proved this more than Y2K, a horror comedy designed to capture the chaos of the year 2000 bug fears. You know, when I was thinking about this episode, and the film kicked off with a disastrous $2.1 million opening on a $15 million budget. Talk about an absolute flop. And it only got worse from there. In its second weekend, it dropped over 60%, barely making a dent compared to older re-releases. Critics tore it apart with scathing reviews, and social media exploded with backlash, especially aimed at Rachel. The string of box office bombs and growing controversies led many to dub. Now, let's be real, it's hardly fair to pin an entire film's performance on one actor. But in the cutthroat entertainment world, there's always a scapegoat, and Rachel Zegler seemed to be the go-to target again and again, especially as Y2K fell flat. And the rumors? Oh, they exploded. Whispers started circulating that Disney might be ready to cut ties with Rachel. And get this, they were planning to fire her on Christmas Day.
That would be my preference as well.
Why your preference?
Well, look, I'm going to be 72 years old tomorrow. I've put in almost 50 years. There are other things in life that I'd like to do. I also am confident that the board will be able to identify an able successor.
One where he was in the boxing ring.
And Howard Cosell, who was then a famous announcer for ABC Sports, introduced him. And I was asked at some point to get Mr. Sinatra Listerine. You're at Madison Square Garden. It's not like there's a Listerine store at Madison Square Garden. So I dutifully ran out and found a drugstore of some sort. This is before CBS. This is 45 years ago. It's not designed right now to necessarily develop great leaders or to encourage more people to seek public office. It just is far more difficult. I've never been in it, but from what I observe, it's far more difficult to run for office today than ever before.
While no official statement confirmed such a drastic move, the rumor spread like wildfire across online forums. For a company as legendary as Disney, one known for standing by its leading ladies, this rumor spoke volumes. It hinted at just how deep the cracks might be. Behind closed doors, executives were reportedly getting fed up with negative headlines to produce past hundreds of millions to produce. Talks began circulating about potential replacements for Rachel in future Disney projects. And suddenly, other studios already on edge started treading carefully around her name. Fans and bloggers were asking the burning question, is Rachel Zegler too big of a risk? The term box office poison wasn't just trending on Twitter, it was apparently making its way into boardrooms where major production decisions were being made. Some producers even reportedly recoiled at the idea of attaching her name to any new film. Sure, these rumors might have been exaggerated by internet chatter, but the fear they created was real. And that fear was enough to shake any star's credibility. As the controversies piled up, so did the fury on social media. Hashtags calling for her firing trended at times, with fans pouncing on every screenshot of her interviews or tweets they deemed condescending. Every new clip seemed to ignite fresh debate. Was she truly misunderstood or just genuinely arrogant? For many, it didn't matter. Rachel Zegler had disrespected the essence of Snow White, or belittled fans had already taken hold. And once that narrative took root, it was nearly impossible to shake off.
Like seeing yourself for the first time in full Snow White drag.
I love that description. It's perfect. Oh my god, well, when you get to wear Sandy Powell, first of all, insane. And then you get to be lit by Mandy Walker.
She's my best friend, and she's the one who sent me the casting notice and said, "Thank me when you're famous." It's the craziest thing ever that it came true in that weird way, and that's why I bring her everywhere. She's the best ever. But yeah, I put myself on tape. It's the worst tape you've ever seen in your life. I have no idea how I got the part still. And it's being used to teach future casting directors at NYU.
Oh, and I feel like it was like that for a lot of us. It's easier for me than it was for Tom because I wasn't playing a character that had already existed in the previous films. And those performances are so wonderful that you don't want to try to recreate anything because there's the fear of failing miserably. But also, it's 64 years before the original films take place, the original books. And Francis Lawrence, who directed Catching Fire and both Mockingjay films, and Nina, who produced all of the Hunger Games content, they didn't put any pressure on us to.
The casual moviegoer might have shrugged and said, "I don't care who's starring, I just want a good film." But in today's world, where online perception can make or break a box office, negative chatter can be absolutely devastating. Fans who felt Rachel had mocked Snow White took to social media, vowing to boycott not just Snow White, but anything and everything featuring her. Even the holiday season, usually a time of celebration and unity, couldn't quiet the growing discontent. Still making another prediction. By now, the rumor of a Christmas Day firing had become a rallying cry for those demanding Rachel face consequences for what they saw as disrespect. Disney, meanwhile, had big plans to celebrate its 100th anniversary with style, hoping to remind the world why it's the ultimate family entertainment giant. But instead of celebrating, controversies were swirling, casting a shadow over the occasion. Insiders talked about frantic internal meetings, with Disney executives scrambling to put out fires. Damage control was in full swing, from leaked set photos to scathing headlines accusing the company of pushing woke agendas. Every single day, more negative commentary was linked to Rachel, whether it was about Snow White, Y2K, or old comments resurfacing to add fuel to the fire. And while Disney fought to stay afloat, rival studios watched the chaos unfold with a mix of caution and relief. Nobody wants to get tangled up in that kind of high priority negativity.
When a creator has pitched you a great story and you've given them the ability to go out and tell that story, you've given them the resources, the money, the tools, the place to tell that story, the rice has to be body temperature, and if it takes too long to serve it, it's no longer body temperature. But what was interesting to me about him was he had 3 Michelin stars, and he was still trying to learn and get better.
Yes.
Get better.
Yes.
And I showed that to executives in Disney, business with large Western companies and brands. But we bring to China a type of ideology, admittedly a relatively benign one as it relates to politics in China, but still a Western ideology. And in many ways, that had value to them.
Especially if they can avoid it. Some industry watchers believe the whole fiasco may have influenced casting decisions for other big budget films. When a rising star stumbles in the public eye enough times, the offers start drying up fast. And that's exactly what happened to Rachel Zegler. Once the hottest newcomer in Hollywood, she went from a red-hot prospect to a cautionary tale about how quickly fortunes can shift. Rachel's story offers a harsh glimpse into Hollywood's unforgiving nature. One minute, you're the shining star in the biggest musicals of the generation. The next, you're the subject of rumors suggesting the biggest studio in the game is planning to drop you. On Christmas Day, no less. There's no official confirmation, but just the mere whisper of such a move speaks volumes about how far she's fallen in both public and corporate eyes. But here's the big question. Is a comeback even possible, or is her Hollywood story truly over? After all, Hollywood loves a good comeback story, as much as it loves drama. If Rachel can rebrand herself, mend those fractured fan relationships, and pick the right projects that connect with audiences, a comeback is absolutely on the table. The real challenge? Overcoming the biggest hurdle of all, public perception. She'll have to prove she's more than the controversies that have been clouding her name. What do you think? Does Rachel Zegler's story end here? Or is there another chapter waiting to be written?